Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brandon Matisse says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hola, amigos. Son Adam Jardy de los Columbus Dispatch. That's the best I can do. Today is Sunday, August 2nd, 2026. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 569 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to a unique podcasting space. I am at my hotel. It's about 9:15 at night here on Sunday, and the lobby of my hotel is under extensive renovation to the extent that there is not a lobby in the hotel, but there is like a connected tower that has a lobby that features within my vision right here. There's like a bunch of stuff that would probably also be in the other lobby. There's some tables. There's a giant pool table. I guess not a giant pool table. It's a regular size pool table, but it's just sitting right here in front of me. There's some paintings kind of stacked in the corner. There's what appears to be like an interactive easel drawing device in the corner. And I'm all spread out here across this one table, bringing you this podcast because Ohio State played a game today. And I'm here in San Juan, and I've written 3 stories out of the game already. And the Buckeyes will play again on Monday. So wanted to get this podcast to you before the Buckeyes take the court on Monday afternoon against, I don't know if it's going to be Equipo Dos, if it's going to be Los Bordes Dos, but the game today, the official box score says that it was Ohio State against Los Bordes Uno, parentheses PR1. So Ohio State played at Coliseo Ruben Rodriguez as part of the Arroyo Puerto Rico Classic. And the Buckeyes came away, depending on whether you're looking at the box score or the notes that I took, it was either because there's a discrepancy here, it was either 115 to 75 or 117 to 75 final score. I have the Buckeyes at 115 points. I went back and re-added every field goal that I tracked, and I came out to 115 points. Splitting hairs, talking 2 points on August 2nd, but got some thoughts on what we saw today. I want to take you into a little bit of what I've gotten to see while I've been here in Puerto Rico and explain what's coming next, and also try to keep in mind that it is one exhibition game where all 14 members of the roster saw playing time, although it's so weird because you don't technically call them walk-ons anymore, but Miles Hero and Braylon Nash, who in a former life would have been classified as walk-ons, they did not get it until the very end of the game. And essentially it was a 10-man rotation for a little while, but we'll dive into all of that here in just a moment. Before we do, I want to remind you, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever it is you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you do subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review, please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Thanks everyone for taking the time to do all those things. So let's run down here a couple of stats from the game, and I'm not getting too head over heels over just what we saw in this game today, but I think there's a couple of things that I came away immediately thinking about, and I'm very interested to see what these things look like now when the Buckeyes play again on Monday. So, well, first off, Jimmy Williams led Ohio State in scoring and looked pretty dominant doing it. He finished with 20 points. I had him going 6 for 7 from 3. He only took 1 2-point attempt. It was a layup. He made it. He looked impressive just sort of across the board to me, especially on the glass, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So he had 20, and then Anthony Thompson, the freshman, had 17, and affected the game in multiple ways, opened the game with a slam dunk. Ohio State got the ball. on his first offensive possession, he had it on like the right wing. He saw a little bit of an opening. He attacked, and even though he's a lefty, he threw down a right-handed slam dunk that just kind of set a tone. Really, just they were off and running from there. Ohio State never trailed in this game. The Buckeyes led by double digits for all but like the first roughly 4 odd minutes, and then there was like a 1 possession like little gap where Los Borges cut it to 9, excuse me. But Ohio State controlled the game, and frankly, that's kind of what you would expect, and anything less than that would have you coming away saying, well, okay, what do we make of this? And Ohio State handled its business in the way that, even though it's summer and even though that it's early and even though more than half the roster is new, this was at least a sign that this team in its first test looks capable of being the team that the coaches have talked about, that there is a lot of upside with this team, that there's a lot of depth with this team. And that was evident early. So let's start with this run to open the game where, first off, Ohio State went with a starting lineup of John Mobley Jr., Curtis Givens III, Anthony Thompson, Andrea Yelovich, and Josh Ojonwuna. So those were the 5 starters for the Buckeyes. Of the, rotation, key players that, we'll likely see this season, Ojonwuna played the least. He played about 6 minutes and did not play during the second half, but not because there was any sort of setback, but just as I asked Jake Diebler about it after the game, he said they just really wanted to have him sort of concentrate on like short bursts. So he is healthy. I do think they're still being a little bit cautious with him. I know on the last podcast I'd wondered if we would see him, if they would hold him out, but they had him play for the first half, and then they didn't want him to like play, sit down for a while, and then like warm back up. And my understanding is that will be the plan on Monday as well, where he'll probably only see action during one half. Maybe it's the second half. The Buckeyes used different starting lineups to begin the first half and the second half, and that will be the case again on Monday. So, not a whole lot to read into who was on the court when the game began. If you are curious, the second half starters were Justin Pippen, LJ Smith, Jimmy Williams, Amari Bynum, and Ivan Yagovin. So those 10 players were like the 10 most featured. And I think we would all have expected that coming in. Like that made sense to me. Those 10 all saw action, and then there was more substituting rather, before we saw the 11th player get off the bench, which was Alex Smith. So he got in sort of late in the second quarter, and then the final piece of that was Vuk Lazarevich, the freshman center. He also saw playing time, had a couple of points. I thought looked raw, but was a guy that did contribute as the game went on. He was, again, what we consider the scholarship players. He was the 12th of 12 to get on the floor there. But Ohio State began the game. Ojonwuna on defense came up with a deflection, and Ohio State got a steal. They push it up the court. They get it to Anthony Thompson on the right wing. He drives. He slams it home. It's 2-0. Next, the Puerto Rican team brings it up. Ojonwuna deflects another pass, and it goes out of bounds. The home team maintains possession, but Anthony Thompson got a block, like along the right baseline. He got the block and was able to corral the ball, but he was falling out of bounds. So he grabbed it and he threw it off his guy. It went out of bounds. Ohio State gets possession. John Mobley Jr. hits a 3 from the right elbow. It's 4-0. And then this is a little bit of the Wayback Machine here, but Mike Bruzewicz, you may remember him as having played for the Wisconsin Badgers in the early 2010s. First career double-double came against Ohio State while he's playing for the Badgers. He's a Minneapolis native, but he's playing down here in Puerto Rico, and he hit a three-pointer to make it 4-3. And then Anthony Thompson immediately answered with a three-pointer. So on the first the first 6 possessions of the first unofficial game of his career, he had a right-handed slam dunk, a block shot, a forced turnover when he threw the ball off his guy out of bounds, and then a swish 3-pointer. Ohio State forced another turnover, and then Curtis Givens was a primary inbounder whenever Ohio State had like a baseline out of bounds play and things like that. So he inbounded the ball after the ball went out of bounds, and Andrei Yelovich hit a jumper with the shot clock buzzing to make it 9-3. Had another miss at the other end. Curtis Givens Jr. hits a 3. It's 12-3 Ohio State. Ball goes out of bounds. Puerto Rico misses another shot, and Mari Bynum misses at the rim, but Ohio State manages to keep possession, and Bynum finds Ivan Yagovin for a bucket. 6:20 to go. The Puerto Rican team calls timeout. 6:20 left in the first quarter. It's 14-3 Ohio State. Buckeyes hit their first 5 shots in 6 of their first 7. The teams would trade 3 straight empty possessions. Ohio State forced a turnover. LJ Smith missed a 3, but then LJ Smith blocked a shot, which really kind of got his teammates fired up. And then Jimmy Williams hit a 3-pointer at the other end. That's the first one that he made. It's 17-3 Ohio State. And at this point, they're just kind of rolling. There were sequences here where Ohio State scored on its first 6 possessions to open the game. And then late in the second quarter, after Los Boris cut it to 36-25, Jimmy Williams scored on a drive, and Ohio State scored on 5 straight possessions and 9 of its final 10 to take a 57-39 lead into the half. I was most taken in this game by the way that Jimmy Williams, certainly the way he shot the ball. I mean, going 6 of 7 from 3. There were a lot of open shots in this game. Defense wasn't necessarily the calling card for anybody throughout the game. But Jimmy Williams finished the game with 4 defensive rebounds. And I asked him afterward, I said, how much is that a part of your game? How much is that something that like you really have worked on? And he said it was something that the coaches had challenged him with, and a way that he could earn more playing time. So when I asked Jake Diebler about that, he said they literally talked about it that morning. And that he said, I asked him, what are the most rebounds you ever had in a game? And he gave me a number, but it was like from one of his JUCO games. And I said, no, that doesn't count. Like, what about one of your D1 games? So they talked a little bit more about it. And for this team to be able to play him more, certainly he's going to get some minutes at the 2, but they want to play him at the 3. And they want to be able to have those 3 guard lineups. And he's got the size to do it, but he absolutely is going to have to rebound if Ohio State's going to play him with Justin Pippen and with John Mobley Jr. in the backcourt. And in this one glimpse, what we saw today was that he can be effective on the glass. He seemed to read the ball off the rim well. He attacked it, and that enabled him to start the break. That enabled them to push the tempo a little bit. Having him on the glass would be I think a significant positive for Ohio State, and I'm very interested to see how he handles defensive rebounding when the Buckeyes play their game here on Monday. Now, along those lines, it wasn't just that Anthony Thompson finished with 17. He looked the part in this game. He looked calm. He looked ready. He impacted the game at multiple levels. The unofficial box score had him at 7 rebounds. He had 2 assists. He had 2 steals. He had the block. That box score only had him at 14, but I had him at 17. When I talked to him after the game and I asked him things like, what did you learn and what did this feel like? And, what do you take away from this? I thought this is really telling to me. And this is part of why I'm so interested to see this game now on Monday. I said, what is the biggest takeaway for you coming out of this game? And he said, quote, that I do belong. He said, coming in, I obviously didn't know what to expect, but throughout practices, I've played well. This definitely built my confidence a little more, knowing that I'm able to feed off my teammates and we play well together. I thought he was impressive. I thought he looked solid all around. And I thought the fact that we're talking about an Ohio State game where, regardless of level of competition, I think if at any point I said to you, hey, Ohio State scored 115 points in a game and nobody was injured, everybody played, I think we would all assume that John Mobley or Amari Bynum would have gone off and gotten 30 or something like that. Well, Mobley had 12. He was efficient. He wasn't like especially really forcing the issue, I would say. He was playing within the function of the offense. He only took 7 shots. He was 5 of 7 from the floor. He was 2 of 4 from 3. He hit all 3 of his 2-pointers. He was solid. He wasn't a like blow up and take 20 shots in this game because there's not a lot of defense. He just kind of it was a sign of growth to me that was his approach in this game, because I could see younger John Mobley Jr. in this exact situation putting up 20 shots and coming down and firing up the first 3-pointer that he could find without getting a better look. He was solid. And again, Ohio State scored 115 points. He has 12, and Amari Bynum only had 6. Amari, to me, looked like a guy who was so excited to play that first game that it kind of took him out of the game a little bit. So he finished 3 of 5 from 2. He had some unbelievable dunks. Gravity still does not apply to him and seems to apply to him even less moving closer to the equator. He'd missed all 3 of his 3-point attempts. He had a couple of turnovers and a couple of moments where it just seemed like he was just moving too fast. Like he was too ready or too excited to play this game. It didn't impact, certainly, his ability to impact the stat sheet. He pulled down 7 rebounds, he had 7 assists, 5 rebounds. So even though he only had 6 points, he kind of flirted with a triple-double. And in a normal game, probably would have gotten one. The 7 assists were a team high. I thought it was interesting to me to, again, watch Ohio State get to 115 points, and they got 18 total from Mobley and Bynum, who I think we would all anticipate coming in would be the top 2 scorers. Now, going a little bit further down the roster, in his first game for Ohio State, I thought Justin Pippen showed some of the things that he showed at Cal, where I had him at 1 for 4 from 2. And definitely a guy who was not afraid to drive into contact, drive to the rim, maybe drive to a spot where he shouldn't, and draw some contact, maybe make the shot, maybe not. 1 of 4 from 2, 1 of 4 from 3, but he did go 5 of 7 from the free throw line. He was getting there with some regularity. So he finished with 9. He also, as I cited Jimmy Williams for his defensive rebounding, Justin Pippen also had 4 defensive rebounds. Pippen had 4 assists. He drew 5 fouls. That led the team. So certainly some pro and some con to that. I think his continued offensive efficiency, or his continued pursuit of better offensive efficiency, will also go a long way toward where this team ultimately gets. As an aside, it was incredibly surreal. I've not written this yet. I will get to this within the next 24 hours. But there I am, sitting inside Coliseo Ruben Rodriguez, getting ready for the game to start. It's about 40 minutes before, and Scottie Pippen walks in. And Scottie, I've now spoken to him a handful of times. He's very friendly. He's very polite. He handles the attention very well, because I watched it. I would be surprised if less than half of the crowd, which is probably about 100 or so, if less than half the crowd did not get a photo with him. And anybody that came up to him, he was willing to do it. He was polite. He was friendly. He smiled. He took pictures. He was not standoffish in any way. I sat down with him about 25 minutes before the game started and just got a couple thoughts on what it was like to watch his son get ready to get his Ohio State career underway. I'm really excited to write that. That was a really neat experience. And maybe at some point, seeing Scottie Pippen walk into a gym will get less noteworthy, but none of us are there yet. Let's put it that way. So that was neat to see. It was really cool to talk to Scottie. And again, look for that story here within the next 24 hours or so. It's been a lot of words flying through the keyboard here in the last 48 hours or so since we got here. I was also impressed. Like Ivan Yagovin looked good. He had 8 points and team high 10 rebounds. When I talked to Jimmy Williams after the game, I said, like, was there a highlight moment for you, favorite moment for you? And he cited late in the game, Yvonne got the ball at the top of the circle. The shot clock was winding down. He fired a three and he just buried it, and the team went absolutely nuts. So that was a highlight for him, and he continues to look more and more like a dude who's going to help Ohio State and a guy who's going to be able to hold down important minutes. You know, the growth from like seeing him 2 years ago was pretty. It's significant, and they played some with like two bigs. I mean, they opened with Yelovich at the 4 and Ojamwana at the 5. I mean, I think at one point I looked out there and Lazarevic and Yegovan were on the floor together. There wasn't a ton of time where they were playing two of the quote unquote bigs or traditional centers together, but we did see a little bit of it. We saw more 3-guard lineup stuff than we saw 2 towers stuff. But overall, again, this was a game where Ohio State did what it was supposed to do against a team it was supposed to beat, and just handled what was in front of it. So now the Buckeyes will play on Monday at 1:30. This game today tipped at noon, so coverage and stuff will be a little bit later on Monday. But I wrote a game story that you can go read at dispatch.com. I wrote some takeaways that are available on dispatch.com, as well as I highlighted like 6 key plays from the game that I think you'll enjoy watching. So, or enjoy reading rather. So the atmosphere was interesting today. Anytime you're in a giant arena that holds 12,000 or so, and there's only 100 odd people, like it's going to be a different type of vibe in there. So it wasn't like super loud or anything, but like they had a band that was playing during timeouts, like not a mariachi band. I'm not sure the right word, but like you had 1 or 2 guys playing like the drums. There was a trumpet. There was someone was playing like the washboard. It was neat. I've tried to post as much stuff as I can to my social media channels, so you can kind of just get a feel and a glimpse into what we're seeing and what it's like being down here. And that included on Saturday, after Ohio State practiced and after I did my last podcast, I went and saw the Buckeyes hold a open practice walkthrough youth clinic on, I guess it's known as Carmelo Anthony Court. And please go look at the photos that I've posted from this experience, because I've never seen a court like that, where essentially like built into the side of like the hillside, and above it are the city streets. To the side are like one of the old forts here. There's like a turret that was like almost kind of looming over the basketball court. Behind the one basket, if the ball bounced the wrong way, and it did once, and it went over the fence, it was gone. It went down the hill, and there were some houses down there, and you were not getting that basketball back. And I got to watch the Buckeyes be there and like interact with some of these kids from the area for a good hour. Some really just cool little interactive moments. And a couple of people have picked up on one of the videos that I posted to Instagram, where first Amari Bynum and then Josh Ojamwana were picking up some of the little kids so they could dunk the ball. And there was this one little boy, Donovan, whose mom was cheering for him everywhere he went. You can hear her in the video. And he missed a couple dunks, like them holding him up. And he just really shy kid, but super sweet mom, very excited for him. And they get him up there. Josh holds him up. He makes one. Everybody cheers. Josh puts him down. The kid turns around and he gives Alex Smith a high five. And Ivan Yagovin is right there with his hand out for a high five. And Donovan just straight up didn't see him and just like kind of kept walking. And so you can see it in the video, but Ivan like holds his hand out and the kid doesn't high five him. And he just like looks right at me and he like high fives himself. It was hysterical. I laughed so hard when that happened. It's a hilarious video. There was a little boy who only spoke Spanish who was just tiny, and for whatever reason he was really like taken by Anthony Thompson, just like followed him and really thought it was cool that Anthony could spin the ball on his finger. And this kid was just following Anthony, asked him to keep doing it. They tried to spin the ball on his finger and hand it to the boy. He couldn't obviously do that, but then like Anthony went and he sat down and like crossed his leg and tried to spin the ball and have it sit on his foot for the kid. The kid was just like so into it. It was really neat to see. You had Jake Diebler doing some dribbling drills with a couple of the kids. There was one fan that was like at the top of the hill as they were practicing who kept yelling. I think he was yelling OH. They took a big photo at the end. Everyone's yelling OH, and all the kids that were there got T-shirts and wristbands, and they got to keep the basketballs. Not a big crowd, and a unique setup. I mean, I'll never be on a basketball court like that again, but it was really cool to see those interactions and to get a little bit more of a feel for who some of these guys are and what they're like off the court. And then that followed through with a walking / food tour of Old San Juan, which my first time going through there, just unbelievable. I mean, gorgeous and so many cool spots. Loved getting to go through and learn a little bit about the town and just watch these guys like interact with each other. And this is all going to go into some sort of big post Puerto Rico story that will come your way within the next week, I would guess. I mean, it doesn't make sense to hold on to the stuff for super, super long, but really starting to get a little bit of a pulse on like some of the personalities and some of the vibes and just who some of these guys are on this team, which is, I think is really going to be important as the year goes on because there's so many new faces. To that end, as we talked about in the last podcast, the roster might not be done either. And this situation continues to evolve. What this looks like as Ohio State gets ready for fall camp, I don't think anybody can give you a complete answer on that right now, but that's also not unique to Ohio State. So stay tuned on that. We'll continue to keep our ears open and see where that goes and see if we can finally just like get some sort of clarity and some sort of understanding on how this is all going to work because it's wild out there right now. I think I'm going to wrap this one up right about there. I don't know. I will have more like comprehensive, in-depth, this player stuff after they play on Monday. I don't want to overanalyze and draw wild conclusions from 40 minutes of 40-point win basketball in front of 100 fans in early August when we're still 3 months from the start of the game. But I felt like overall we saw Ohio State play with pace. We saw guys make open shots. We saw balance. We saw multiple guys getting to the rim, hitting shots, scoring. It's harder to get a super great feel for defense. I thought Ohio State had some moments, especially early, where the Buckeyes were able to play with some defensive bite. There were some moments where they did lag a little bit, and you saw some of the experience of some of the Puerto Rican players start to filter its way to the surface. But, overall, again, this was a game that Ohio State was expected to win and didn't need to lean on its big guns to make that happen. So, again, game on Monday at 1:30, and I'll have game recap, top plays, takeaways, all that will be up on dispatch.com as we move deeper into Monday night. I'll have certainly stuff on my social media channels, and I'll have another podcast for you that will be in your ears on Tuesday morning. So I'll look forward to that one as well. But now I'm going to wrap this one up and try to go get some sleep. As always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter, or ajardy@dispatch.com, or CD Adam Jardy on Instagram and TikTok. So thanks again for listening. Thanks Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, for getting this out to you all. I'll be back with you tomorrow. So until then, be kind, take care, and buenas noches.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.